Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Michelle Dutrissa and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stamping Up. Please jump on if you're new and say hello. Let us know where you're from. It's always great saying hello to new people. Now, last week, and I believe it was last Friday, we played around with some watercolouring. Wasn't really happy with the way it all came out. I think there was an issue right from the very start in that my embossing powder. It was very old and I don't think it sort of worked really as well as what we should. I was tossing up last week which stamp set to use and I chose one over another, and I think I would have been a lot better off if I had chosen the other one. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have another go at this. Same technique and everything. So what we talked about last week is still quite relevant. I just think the outcome, the finish of it all will be a lot better. So as I said, please jump on, say hi, let me know you're here, and let's get started. So let me just flip my camera down. Won't be one moment. Now, I'm sorry if you can hear a slight whirling noise in the background. That is because I've got the fan on. It is stinking hot here in the Southern Highlands today, and it was yesterday as well. So thank goodness tonight I don't have to cook. Anyway, let's get started. So we're going to use the Enduring Beauty this week, and I'm going to do a watercolour of this particular stamp set. I have got my camera down fairly close so you can see. So I hope that's all okay with you. And we're going to start off by using the Fluid 100, which is this particular product here, which we have in our catalogue. It's a Fluid 100 watercolour paper. It is 100% cotton. As I said last week, if you're playing around, you've never done this before, and you don't want to sort of invest in getting this paper here, get a cheap one just to start with to play with, okay? And just sort of have keep this for when you're actually wanting to make a card. But please don't be, excuse me, don't be scared of it. It's not going to come back and bite you, and you're just going to have some fun. And that's what it's all about. If something that you've done, like what I've done last week, doesn't quite work and you're not happy with it, go again. You know, just keep practicing. This one here that I did last week, I mean, there's lots of things. I'm not happy with the embossing powder because there was just some areas that just didn't come up well enough because I used a clear embossing powder, and as I said, it was quite old. It had little black flecks all through it. So there was that part of it. I wasn't quite happy with the complete color combination at the end, the way I stamped it, because I mean, stamping something with embossing powder, and especially if you're using one stamp and doing multiple times, you can, like I've ended up with a rows of flowers rather than all over, which is what I wanted, because you can't really see where you've stamped it for. But I can come back and I can die cut each one of these out individually, and I may end up with quite a nice card out of it. So don't think because something didn't work the way you wanted it to, it's not the end of it. It's just a matter of going back, revisiting it, maybe a little bit later on when you've got a clearer head, and start, you know, sort of reinvent it basically. So let's have a go with this particular stamp set. So I've got a piece of Fluid 100 here. I've cut it down. I've also got a piece of Old Olive because I'm going to do the embossing right now. Now I'm going to use my embossing buddy this week, which I didn't use last week. So I'm just going to pop that all over, and that's just going to make sure that no greasy fingers are going to pick up the embossing powder. And I'm going to do this on this as well, because we're going to do an embossed, it's a heat embossed sentiment for our card as well. So I've got my stamp set here all mounted up. Got my Versamark. So we're going to make sure again that we've got really good coverage of Versamark all over it. Now Versamark is an ink that is can be used for doing like a watermark effect on your cardstock, but it's also tacky, so it allows the embossing powder to attach to your cardstock. Okay, and so the embossing powder, because we've used the embossing buddy, the embossing powder should only go on the outline of our stamp. Now I'm putting quite a bit on this because I want to make sure I'm getting good coverage. Just going to move that one out of the road, turn that around. Now this is a fairly big block to hold. Let me just bring that up so it is in camera view for you. And I've just got a bit of scratch paper underneath because when I pour my embossing powder, and this time, I mean, I did order some new powders, and I'm going to use white this time. So that should be a little bit better being a new powder, because apparently embossing powders can go off. Now, while we're doing that, I'm going to also just move that to one side, and I'm going to ink up my sentiment. So we're going to use our heat gun and make a lot of noise. Hi, Linny, how are you? Thank you for joining. We might as well do the whole lot at once. So let's just stamp that right in the middle of that piece of old olive. And now that we've got both of those done with embossing powder, as I said, I've bought all brand new embossing powder, threw my old stuff all in the bin. It was probably a few years old, so it was probably about time I got some new stuff. And let's just pop a bit on there as well. Just going to make sure I've got good coverage of embossing powder on there. That looks good. Just go back and add a bit more on this end here. Just making sure that I've got good coverage. And I can definitely see it a little bit better this time around than the clear from last week. Okay. Just unmute myself for a moment there. Let's just come back in. Okay. Don't know why this is happening. We may just have to very quickly see if I can change phones. Won't be one sec. Sorry about this, but love to say talk amongst yourselves. Sorry about this. I'm just going to get this up and going again. It's just I wanted to use one of these older phones because for some reason my new phone I can't flip around, and we'd have the situation we had on Tuesday night where we were doing it with the screen in the wrong direction. Hello, Leslie. How are you? Thank you for joining us. I'm sorry, but my camera has just gone down. I'm just trying to get another one up and running. I looked around my room a moment ago and I've got like old cameras everywhere. And my husband's he's just bought himself another new camera phone. And I've got his, but he hasn't cleared it, so I can get it set up. And I didn't want to delete anything just in case it deleted off his current phone. So, gee, I've got a croaky voice today. Don't know why. We may just have to bring in my new phone and do everything sideways again. Because that one's not even. Unless there's a problem with the charger. Hold on one sec. Okay, we're going to have to do it with my new phone. So bear with me. For some reason, I can't get the screen to turn on this phone. It seems to be turning, but when I go to use it, it doesn't want to. Technology is... I'll put me up there so at least you can see me. And I'll get this one in and running. So, as I said, I'm really sorry for this. Oops. I think it's looking at the ceiling. Okay, let's give this a go. Now, unfortunately, we may be... Let me just turn this... Oh, golly, everything's going bonkers today. Okay, then. Let's see how we're going. Okay, as I said, I'm terribly sorry, but it's just going to have to be on that view. For some reason, I'm going to have to find out how I can get this screen to turn. I'm not quite sure, but let's get back to our heat embossing. And let's get these embossed. That one's done nicely. And now for this one. Stop your paper from curling. You can emboss it, put the heat on the back of it for a little bit. And of course, when you emboss, your embossing powder comes out matte. And when it changes colour, I'm not quite sure whether you can actually see this, but when it changes, when it melts, it actually goes from a matte to a white to a very shiny white. Just turn this around. And it's just like magic the way this all works. So last week we used clear embossing powder. This week we're using white. And that looks great. Okay, so we can, I don't know whether you can see that. Let me just bring this these lights a little bit in closer. Might be better. You can see that all on there now. Okay, so the colours I've decided to use for this particular card today is going to be Bubble Bath, Melon Mambo. I've got Soft Sea Foam and a little bit of Old Olive, because I just want the Melon Mambo and the Old Olive to be highlights. Sorry, I just have to work out where my camera is and work within that camera space. So I've got those, and I've got my little paint tray here, and I've already put 3 of those colours in there. I don't have the Melon Mambo, so I've squeezed my pad by putting my palm of my hand on this side and my palm of my hand that side, and just squeezed in. And I'm going to be using the inside of my lid as my other palette, so I'll be going to that one as well. Just pop that on there. I've got my water painters, got some clean water and a brush cleaning. Let me just remove a Versamark out of the road. Now I've got some paper towel here somewhere. Yes, just right there. So let's get started with this. So I'm just going to drop a little bit of water, just a drop into each one of these. Just want to make these a little bit more fluid. Now I've got to try to remember which one of these is Old Olive and which one is Soft Sea Foam. Okay, so I'm going to grab my brush. I'm going to use a wider brush at the moment, and I'm just going to work on one flower at a time. So all I'm going to do is just using my clean water here. Sorry, my hand is in the road there. Let's move that water over there. And I'm going to start with this big flower here. Now, I'm just wondering, can you see that okay? I'm just wondering whether I can bring that right down a little bit more. So that's as close as I can get the camera now. So, and all I'm going to do is flood this area with these petals. And you could, if you wanted to, just do a couple of petals at a time with water, because where I pop the ink, and I want quite a bit of water in there because I want the ink to flow and to fill those areas. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of this ink here, and I'm going to pop it into these areas here. Just I'm popping it at the top, and if you, I don't know whether you can see, but that water just pulls that color out. Okay, grab my paper towel, and I'm just going to now saturate another area, and hopefully while I'm working around each petal at a time, the ink in the first spot is starting to dry. So again, I'm just going to pop a couple of dots of ink there and let that water pull that colour out. If you don't feel like you've got enough there, just go back in and add a bit more. Always start, as I said last week, just adding a little bit of colour to start with, because you can always come back and add more, but you can't. Well, you can take a certain amount of it away, but it's a lot easier to come back and add a bit. So let me just bring that up so you can actually see. Now, where's that camera? Okay, there we go. And you can see how that water is just like the colour of it is just put around this area here, and the water has just pulled it out. So let's start working on another petal. Basically, the embossed area acts like a dam, and it's holding all that water in that area there for us. So again, we're just going to pop a little bit in there and just let that pull out. Okay, so I'm going to keep, I've got the picture here so I can see and come back to this all the time and just have a look. I'm working on this particular flower here. Let's just turn this around so we've got it going in the same direction as I've got my image here. And I'm just having a look here to see what parts of this flower I haven't got. So this flower here, that's a petal there that belongs to it. So let me now just put some water into that petal. That's this one here. And grab some more ink, and I'm just going to let that pool into there. Now, if you feel you've got too much water there, of course, you can come in with your paper towel and just very gently blot that out. So once you've done that one, you can then go on and move on to the next flower. So the next flower I'm going to work on is this one here. Now with this one here, I've put the colour in the centre of my flower and let the water pull it outwards. With this one here, it's going, that's the underneath. So I'm going to put my colour there, so then it draws up towards the end of the petal. So it's the reverse of that one. It's the underneath. Let's bring that up a little bit more. Now that's gone out of my lines a little bit, so I'm just going to, not too worried about it, but I'm just blotting a little bit of that out, and I just want to pop a little bit more colour just in there. Again, I'm going to go now to this part of my flower, which is a petal from the other side. And again, just let that, draw that out. So I'm just going to do the same thing and just, again, picking up a little bit of that colour, letting that water do all the work. So if we were to have a look at that now, there we go, that's that one there. And it's very soft. And I just want it, those areas just there. So now I'm happy with that particular flower. I'm going to turn it around and start working on this one. It doesn't matter if one flower ends up being slightly darker than the other, because that always happens out in nature, doesn't it? So again, I'm just using my picture as my reference. And I'm just having a look at where all my petals are. So I want to do that one. This is the Enduring Beauty stamp set, Leslie. It's in the mini catalogue. It's one that comes with the masks, so you can use the masks to colour this stamp set. I just think it's such a great little bundle, this one, because there are so many things that you can do with this. You can mask it and colour it with masks. You can colour it, watercolouring like we're doing here. You could colour it with your blends because it's an outline design. So there's a real lot that you can do with this particular bundle. So if you haven't got it, I really recommend getting this one. So let me just grab some of these areas here. I've probably got a little bit of less water in these areas, but still just going around and adding. And so this one here, the first one I've done, which is this one here, is now a little bit dry. So if I wanted to, I could come in and add some highlights. Now I was going to add a little bit of Mellow Mambo, but not a lot. But I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm actually going to keep this a lot softer. I think my whole idea of this card has changed. So you're going to have to bear with me because I may just very quickly use different colors. But we'll just keep working and see how we go towards the end. So again, I'm just going to colour this section here. Still just using this picture that I have here as my reference. Now your ink will only go where water really is. So if you've sort of got areas that aren't getting coloured, and it's okay to have white areas in this. I mean, I've got a spot, I don't know whether you can see it, on that very first flower. Where's my camera? Whoops, back there. Right there's a couple little spots of white, and I'm not going to worry about going back and putting colour into that area because it's what watercolour is about, and it's okay to have white areas. So you don't have to fill everything up. And two, by going through and just colouring one petal at a time, one flower at a time, by the time I'm ready to go back to my first flower, it's going to be relatively dry. So if I want to add any highlights or anything to it, that's when I can do that. If you start adding too much and it's got too much water or anything there, you're just going to cause a big muddy mess. So you do want to take your time with this sort of thing and just work that little bit at a time. And getting what you're happy with. Keep forgetting which one's my clean water and which is my dirty water. And if I want to go back and add highlights, I want that area to be slightly drier. I don't want all the colour to be going up like we do this first time, because this time we're just allowing that colour to flow. Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, it's a nice one. I really like this particular floral design. I did tell myself at the beginning of the year I was going to do less florals, more masculine. don't think I've quite made it there yet. I'm not a gardener, but I do like painting and colouring my florals. Now I'm just having a quick look at this flower here for little areas I may have missed, like here. And underneath here. There. Okay, so now all I've got left is the buds, and I am going to just go over these and add a bit of this to it. One over here. And there's one more. Okay, so that's all of those areas, and I'm going to leave that now and start on the green, but I want to start around this first flower I started with, because any water I add to this is going to flow out into any of these other ones. So I want to start with an area where it's fairly dry, which is going to be these areas here. Now I just want to work out which colour I have got in which one. I think that's the old olive. That's okay. So this one here is my soft sea foam, and that's what we're going to work with now. So let's just lay some water down, just pick up a bit of that and just let that flow. And then I'm just going to bring my colour really down through the centre of my leaf, so it's pulling it out to the outside edges. So this one here, I'm just going to go in here and just go down through the centre and let it pull it out. Put a bit more water in there because it's just not quite pulling it out as much as I'd want, but that's okay. So I'm now going to come along and I'm going to work on these leaves here, which was going around in an anti-clockwise. Again, just laying down my water. And I'm just going to bring that straight down through the centre of that. And the same with that one. We'll admit that this has been a little bit more enjoyable than what we did last week. Come back in and add a bit more colour into there. But this is so simple because all you're doing is you're just letting the water do all the work for you. It's just letting it pull that colour and just bring it around for you. And all you're doing is just putting that colour in there and just letting it flow. And you can start seeing now that this is starting to come to life now that we're adding some of that green to it. Now, because this set also comes with dies, so it comes with, you've got your stamps, which are photopolymer stamp. It also has the masks, so you can colour them with the masks. And then it has the dies. So then you can also cut out the image with a die as well. So it really is a fantastic bundle. Okay, so the only thing left I've really got to do in here is I'm going to actually use a fairly dry brush here. So I haven't added any water. I'm just adding a little bit of colour with the soft sea foam in these stems. So just really using the fine tip of my brush. I'm not adding any water at all. I'm just adding some of those so that's what we've got so far. So let me just clean my brush off. And what I'm going to do is because I don't think I'm going to use that melamine, I think it's just going to be too heavy for it, but I'm going to add another couple of drops of the bubble bath in my palette here. And I'm not really adding any water to this. Just going to make sure that my brush is not 100% wet. I'm going back to my first flower again. And this time I'm just going to very gently add a few highlights in here where you'd have your light and your dark. So you'd have a little bit of darkness coming out from your center of your flower and from the petals from underneath. Now you could add a bit more water to this just so that it can flow a little bit better for you. You don't want to take away any colour that you want to keep. So I'm just adding just the tiniest little bit of water in my palette. Not much, just enough that I've got a little bit of flow happening and my brush is wet, not 100% dry. And I'm just now going around and just adding a little bit of strength and colour around my petals. So luckily Stampin' Up have given us all the lines. So they've already given us that little bit of indication of where your petals are. And all we're doing now is just adding those highlights to it. And just going around working one petal at a time. If you don't like an area, just put a little bit of water on it and blot it out with your paper towel. This is where you have to start thinking about if a petal is coming out from underneath a leaf or another petal, you're going to have a bit of darkness in that area. So this is where you're going to be creating some of that dimension. So I'll just show you that one I've just done. That come into focus. So you can see there I'm now getting some dimension in those flowers. Hi Marie. Hello Nicole. How are you? Thank you for joining us. Yeah, it's a beautiful one to watercolor. Okay, so let's start working again, working around. Now I am using the more medium nib on this. I could go at this point to my finer one, but to be truthful, I mean this one's got a few little hairs, which in some ways is annoying me a little bit. I don't know whether you can actually. There's my camera. There we are coming. Let's see if I can. I don't know whether you can see it, but there's a couple of little hairs there which are a little bit long, but I'm actually using them to my advantage at the moment because it's allowing me to get a very, very fine point. Even though this is a medium brush. So as I said before, I'm just coming in now and just adding a few more highlights. But I'm not flooding that area now with water as much. I'm just using a little bit of water that's in my brush and taking the colour directly to areas where I think would be shadowing. Or you want strength of colour, like from the centre of your flower and pulling out. Those areas that have got a fold in the leaf. Or fold in the petal, I should say. So I'm really just going around and just adding all that definition. So this is now really starting to look like it's coming to life on its own. I just see a little bud there where I haven't added the green in the stem. I find this thing so very, very relaxing. No, it's not everybody's way of relaxing, but yeah, I find it quite relaxing. I just see a little bit of a petal there I haven't quite coloured before. I just want to put a little bit more colour in there, so I'm going to go back in with my very watered down. Yeah, really necessarily want to make these all of it 100% perfect either, because hey, we are hand making it, and we do want people to sort of appreciate maybe a little bit of time and effort we've gone into doing something. So yeah. Okay, so let's go back in. Now I did spot one area where I want to put a little bit more green, and that was in there. So now I just want to go back and add a few highlights. Now, whether I add a little bit of highlight with my old olive here, I don't want to add too much because it will take over, because it is a fairly strong colour compared to the soft sea foam. So I'm watering that down quite a bit. But I just want to add a little bit of the brighter green. Just blot that out a little bit. Just got to remember, sometimes a little bit of this can go a long way. And again, I'm just following the centre and letting any of that draw out. Now, leaves and flowers aren't one colour, so sometimes you can invert a bit of red into a leaf. I'm just trying to pick up just the tiniest little bit of the old olive. And I've watered it down a lot more than what I did the other two colours, because it, compared to the soft sea foam, there is a lot of difference. And I'm not colouring in the whole area with the old olive. I'm just picking up certain spots because I don't want it to overpower completely the soft sea foam, but I want the soft sea foam just to be a nice basis rather than coming straight in with Old Olive to start with. And I'm going to get a bit more Old Olive underneath the petals. So that's where your shadowing is going to be. I think we've got one more to do, and then I think this might be ready to dry off a bit. Now, normally I would recommend that you dry this by just letting it air dry because your colours will stay nice and bright. But because I want you to try to get this card done, it's going to pop a little bit of green just in some of these areas here at the bud. I am going to hit this up with my heat gun. So let me just get rid of a couple of these things here because we didn't use that yellow number, because I really think I like the softness of that. So let me just bring this up so you can see. So that's what we've ended up with. And as you can see, it is actually quite simple and easy and doesn't take too long at all. But I just want to move some of these things here away. Brush off my brush, make sure it's nice and clean. And I'm just going to give this a bit of a hit with the heat gun. And that should also just help it with the die cutting as well. So let me just bring in my die. And our sentiment, which we were going to die cut as well. And I may just... I'm just taking up these dies here as well. The extra leaves and that we've got in here. We need this big one. Because I might grab a bit of soft sea foam and just cut a few of these out with that. I've usually got pieces of vellum lying around. Whether I have it or not today, I don't know. Let me have a quick look here in my box of bibs and bobs. Yes. Got some vellum as well, so we might even cut some of these pieces out in vellum. So let's just put these to one side for the moment. Let's move all of that out of the road. Now we're just going to work out where this is going to go on here. So if this was too wet, I wouldn't recommend using your die because it would tend to tear it rather than cut it nicely. So I want to position that where I want it to go. I'm just going to pop on a couple of pieces of Post-it note tape. Just hopefully to hold everything in place. Now, sorry, this is going to take up a lot of this camera view. Let's see if I can lift this up again. I may not be able to without making you all very dizzy. Okay. That on there. Fingers crossed it hasn't moved. And let's run this through. Just running it through a couple of times just to make sure we're cut through. And there's our beautiful die cut flowers. Looking lovely. Okay. So let's take this and then pop that on there as well and die cut that. So there's our sentiment, and that's using one of the dies from this particular suite. Now let's have a look. That die there. If I can get some of these. Don't think I'm going to be able to get all of these out. Let's have a look. We can get some of these little ones out. So I'm going to turn that to that way, and I've got a piece of vellum here. And I want to get some of these in the vellum as well. Move those off. We'll cut some more. Try to use up all these little scraps and things. Get the most out of all your paper. One of these days I'm going to get the vacuum cleaner in this room and give the place a really good going over. I've got little die cut pieces flicking off everywhere. And one more here. Let me just grab. Sorry, I'm doing this off screen a little bit. I'm terribly sorry about that. I just want to might actually swap this now for the mini cut and emboss, because then you can see things a little bit clearer. It's much easier to handle on here, and I do want a little bit more of olive. I'll have to do a bit of a tear there and get myself a bit of a scrap. And I'm going to cut those bigger dies. Never have too many die cut pieces. See how we go with what we've got here now, and see how we go putting this card together. Okay, so whoops, I've got post-it notes stuck all over me. So we've got our floral piece, we've got our sentiment, we've got some die cut pieces. So I've got a card base here in Old Olive. So that's already scored. Oh, it looks like we've got two there. Let's grab the bone folder and get that a good burnish. Now I've got a piece of basic white here, which I will put all the measurements and everything that I'm using later on in my blog post, which I will hopefully do tomorrow. But I just want to stamp a little bit of our floral stamp on there, and I think I might just grab the bubble bath. Yeah. I'm going to find that piece of scratch paper I had earlier. I'm going to pop that underneath, just for the fact that I don't want to have to clean up my glass mat today. So let's pop that on there. That looks pretty. Now I've got a piece of the designer series paper. Now this piece here comes from, this is from the Celebration. This is from the Softly Stippled 12x12 designer series paper. But I love this background here that looks like it's painted. And that the colour of that I think is in the Pebble Path. So it's not a colour we've used today, but I think it might just highlight it and lift it. So that's what I'm using. The only thing I might do with this is cut off a strip. So there's a spare piece there. Let's bring in my paper trimmer. And I just want to cut a little strip of this, probably about 1.5 centimetres in width. Sorry. Hope I didn't make you all dizzy there. Just flicked my camera up onto, like, hit the camera with my cutting emboss, and I just want to pop a bit of that along the bottom there. So let me just grab my glue. That's just going to go along the bottom of there. And then that's going to go on the inside. Just give that a nice good rub. Just make sure that glue is spread nicely. Okay, Linny, see you later. Another storm. Linny doesn't live. Linny probably lives about an hour south of my place. So if she gets a storm now, and it's looking pretty dark outside, then we'll probably get it up to her. Unless it's coming from the other direction. And then we'll get it first and then... Oh, yeah. Okay, so I've got a piece of this to go on the front there. So this is our card front. I'm not matting this. Generally, I like to mat things, but I didn't want to mat this one. And then that's going to go on there. So just to keep things a little bit soft, but I didn't want the background to sort of blend too much into that. So I hope that that's looking good. So I'm going to get some dimensionals and pop our beautiful artwork up on dimensionals. Now again, I like to have my dimensionals in from my edge. I don't take them right to my edge, because if I'm going to add any of these die cut pieces that we've already cut, then I need to have room to be able to slip them in underneath. So when I'm using smaller pieces, I will put like this is quite a big die cut piece. If I'm using smaller, I will generally only put in the middle, but I do want a bit of support on the outside edges. And the biggest decision now to make is which is going to be up and which is going to be down. So we can have our flowers. Yeah, I think I like that flower going upwards. I don't think he looks, yeah, he needs to go up, I think. So let's pop him about there. So that's going on there like that. Now, sentiment, I thought, it's so hard to actually cover this up now. I don't really want to cover it up, but I'm going to take my sentiment more to one side. It's a shame to cover up those beautiful flowers. That's okay. So I'm only going to put a couple of dimensionals on there, or... Okay, let's just not glue that down just yet. Let's just grab some of these pieces and start looking at where we can pop these in, if we pop them in. Because just because we die cut them doesn't mean I have to use them. Now I am going to pop all those little bits out, because I do like to have those out. I was sort of wondering whether to add a bow. I don't think so. I think I might leave it. Actually, I think I will glue that down. So I'm going to pop glue on this end and a couple of dimensionals there. So I'm going to have a bit of glue there. And we're going to pop a dimensional on this end here. And that way that can sit right there like that. And I do like some of these pieces. So let's just pop all these little bits out. Sorry, I just tend to be a little bit fanatical about these bits. I do like to have that in there. Just working out at the moment where these are all going to go. I am someone who likes all those little bits and pieces over there. Whoops. Oh, we're back again. Good. I think that storm is getting closer. Can you see it now, Marie? I'm sorry I didn't see your comment before. I had my head down looking at what I'm doing. Okay, I think I'm going to have to start gluing some of these in. I want the vellum pieces to be on top of the others, so let's take that out and start gluing some of these. And of course, I only just put a bit of glue on the end. Tuck it in. I like the dimension that it gives you. A little bit too much glue in there, so let me just see if I can. There we go. That one there. And this one I'm going to do it the opposite way, I think. Because I've only got a little singular leaf there. Okay, let's have a look. What else could we? I want it to look reasonably balanced. Okay. Okay. Now it's a little bit top heavy. Get rid of some of those. Marie, can you see us? The side's okay now? I'm just sort of being a little bit concerned here about trying to, because at the moment it's very top heavy, I think. But I don't want to add too much more, because I don't want it sort of to take away from all that. Whoops, that's not wanting quite sticking in there. That one's just not wanting to stick down, so I'm putting a bit more glue on him. So let me just pop this in. Where did that? Stuck to my finger though. Got a little bit too much glue on there now. That's okay, it'll dry. I'll just pop that there like that. Okay, I think that's it. I think enough's enough now. Hello, Go Fish. How are you? Yes, I am making another wonderful creation. You've just caught the end of it. So I'm just going to move some of my rubbish over to there. So there's our card. Let me just bring that up so you can see it. So we've watercolored that card, and the stamp set that we have used, as I said before, is the Enduring Beauty. There's our finished card. I'm not going to add any bling on that because I really think that there's enough on there. That's it. You can always catch up with the replay, Go Fish. It's all on YouTube or on my Facebook page anyway. So a lot better than what we tried to do last week. Well worth coming back and going back to my original plan and redoing it. Look, you know, sometimes you just got to say something didn't work, and it didn't work. But I may cut it up and see what else I can come up with to what we did last week. So this is probably more my style. And I know last week I was trying to take an idea that a friend of mine had done, but I'm a lot better off just going with my own ideas and my own plans. I don't tend to case other people too well. So thank you very much for watching again today. I'm sorry my camera is around the wrong way, but until I can work out how to flip this on my phone, it flips. I can flip YouTubes when I'm watching a YouTube video and all that sort of thing, but for some reason once I come onto StreamYards with my new phone, it doesn't want to flip for me. So we'll see. I've got 2 old phones which I think are going in the bin. I've got a 3rd old phone which I've got to get my husband to take all his stuff off so I can use it, and maybe we can use that phone for our camera for next time. So take care. Have a lovely week. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate everybody jumping on and everybody coming. Go Fish, if you want to jump on to my Facebook page, which is Cheryl Trissa's Stamping Up, you will find details there for when my lives are. And I'm going to go because I think we've got a storm here just about to hit, which will cool everything down beautifully. And I will catch up with you next week or even on Tuesday night. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.